Hey, are you looking for grants for your nonprofit? Today I'm going to talk about the Ben & Jerry's Grassroots Organizing for Social Change grant, where you can get up to $30,000. So I'm going to walk through all the details of the grant. If you don't know me, my name is Tiffany. I created Boss on the Budget to help new and small nonprofits get up and running, and I love to share information around grants and give you advice for how to write grant proposals. So today I'm going to share all the juicy details about the Ben & Jerry's grant in particular. And this, if nothing else, this grant just proves the point that you have to know your funders. You have to build relationships with funders, because by knowing your funders better and knowing how they like to fund and knowing what they like to fund helps you figure out whether or not it's a good fit for you. And that's absolutely the first step that you should take before you write anything, is look at their goals, look at their focus areas, and make sure it aligns with who you are as an organization and what you're trying to do. Now, I cover all of this in my Grants Masterclass. If you want to check out that class, click the link in the description box. But today I'm going to walk through the details of this grant. So every year, Ben & Jerry's gives out $2.5 million in grants. So they have several grant programs, but I'm only going to be talking about this one today, which is the only one that's really open on their website today. Also, if you want to check out the website, I put that link in the description box as well. So you'll find this for a lot of bigger companies, that a lot of corporations have sister foundations, for a lack of a better word. So they have foundations that they have set up where they have some relationship with them. So yes, this is the Ben & Jerry's ice cream. They have a separate foundation. And if you know anything about Ben & Jerry's, they're very big on social change. They're very big on social justice and things like that. And that's why their grants have those same values. Okay, so if you're interested in this grant, they fund programs in Vermont, but they also fund programs within the United States, not internationally, only within the United States. If you want to apply for this grant, you have to be a 501c3 organization, or you have to have a fiscal agent. If you don't know what a fiscal agent is, or a fiscal sponsor, they call it fiscal agent on their website. It's just when you have an agreement with a 501c3 organization that they will be the administrator of the grant for you. So they'll receive the grant funds, but they'll pass it through to you to be able to implement whatever you said you were going to do in your grant proposal. Now, the one thing you need to pay attention with this grant is that it's not like typical grants. Number one, it's not a program grant. So program grants are typically for direct services or direct programming. It's not framed that way. It is a general support program. So that means you can get $30,000 to support your general operations. It doesn't have to go to one program in particular, and it doesn't necessarily have to go just to programming. So that's the interesting thing about this grant, but that's not the only interesting thing about this grant. The other piece of this is it's not allowed to go toward direct services. So if you are like what I call a traditional nonprofit, you serve your community, you provide direct services, you do like case management or mentoring for older youth and stuff like that, that's not what this is. This is focused on social change, community organizing, grassroots, coalition building organizations. So if that's the type of work that you do, that's the frame that you have and the work that you do, this is the grant for you. Otherwise, it may not be a good fit for your organization. The other piece about this is they only fund grants to organizations whose budgets are less than $500,000. And there are a lot of other stipulations as well. So you can't do arts programming. This doesn't go to schools. You can't do religious programming with it. There are a lot of stipulations about these grants. So make sure that you check out the website and do your research so you can make sure that you actually are eligible for these grants. So the Grassroots Organizing for Social Change grant is focused on social and environmental justice. And on the website, it says that the grant is created to support just and equitable food systems around the country. So again, this isn't necessarily a program or a grant for a food bank. So if you're a food bank, don't think that this fits for you if you don't do any kind of community organizing, if you don't work towards policy change, if you don't do some kind of advocacy, because that's just not this type of grant. Also, any strategies you use have to include these activities. So I'm going to read them, y'all, because there's no way that I can remember this. So I'm going to read them off my computer. Don't judge me, but I also just want to make sure you hear this so you can make sure again that this is the right fit for you. So your strategies have to include community and ally outreach. It has to include leadership development, constituent empowerment, and decision making. So that means the people who are served in a community have to be involved in the decision making of the organization. Popular education, I don't know what that means. Root cause analysis, power analysis, campaign development, mobilizing constituents and allies, coalition building, and direct action. So you have to really be in like the grassroots community organizing space. You have to be all in because they want to see examples of that. And if they're calling out specific strategies, that means you need to speak to those strategies in the proposal. And if you don't know what any of those mean, then you might not be a good fit for the grant either, because you need to make sure that you're answering that in the way that they're satisfied. So again, use this information to decide whether or not this is the right grant for you. The grant is due on June the 1st, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2021, and they have a process that is similar to a letter of intent process. So the first round of applications are due in June, and if they like what they see and they think you're a good fit, then they will invite you for a full proposal, which is due on August 16th, 2021. So if you've heard me talk before about letters of intent, it's almost like that process. They want you to submit a letter of intent through their grants portal, and then if they like what they see, they invite you for a full proposal. If you need help understanding that kind of language around grants, again, check out my grants masterclass because I go through all of the basics and all of the details around submitting grants. The last bit of information I want to share about the grant is if you're a prior grantee, so if you've won a grant from them in the last 3 years, you don't have a deadline. You can submit at any time throughout the year. It's only if you are a new applicant, a new grantee, and you're trying to submit for this grant, is your application due June the 1st, okay? And they have an online grants portal, so you just have to go to the website. I linked it below in the description box. Set up your account, go through an eligibility quiz, and if they determine that you're eligible, then you can move forward and apply, all right? And just remember, again, it's due June 1st. So one thing I'll say is, especially with corporate foundations, so those are foundations that are associated with a corporation, like Ben & Jerry's, you have to look at the values and the associations of the company, because that will give you a clue as to what they would give money to. So for example, Ben & Jerry's is well known for being deep into social justice issues. They're very vocal. So it should not be a surprise that they have structured their grants in this way to match the values of the company. But it's not even just about values, it's also about focus areas. So a lot of grocery stores, whether you realize it or not, are associated with foundations, okay? And those foundations, a lot of times they fund areas around food insecurity, around hunger, all right? That makes sense because they associate themselves with food because they're grocery, and for the charitable giving arm of their organization, they want to provide support around that area. So if you're looking for grants in particular around a certain topic or a focus area, look at the corporations who have some aligned values with that or work in that area as well, because more than likely they give money towards that type of programming. All right. So if you need help putting together a grant proposal, I do have a grant writing workbook, which helps you outline all the common elements of a proposal, and it also includes a sample proposal so you can practice and see how to write and see how to structure a real grant proposal. And also, if you need help from me, you can always visit me at www.bostonabudget.com, and I'll see you in the next video.